Bearings. They make the world go round.
2, 1.
Yum, 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 yum. Choo, choo. Boom. Hey, man, I like tacos. Hey, let's go to work. Chop, chop. Good huggers.
Okay, so what do we have here? We've got a few bearings. I got this one. Doesn't look like anything special. Probably seen these before, right? Probably seen stuff like this. Well, if you have an RC car, you've probably seen these bearings quite a bit. Because they'll go out or break or get messed up, or you'll have a crash, you'll lose one or something. I wanted to talk about them today because there is a lot of information I feel like that's not being parlayed in a reasonable manner. Meaning that, when should you use one type of bearing over another? What is a stainless bearing? What is a stock bearing like this? This is kind of a stock style bearing, and I'll explain what I mean by stock. What is that? That's a ceramic bearing, but technically it's a ceramic hybrid, and I'll explain what that is. So, there are some rules regarding bearings that were sort of established about 50 years ago by the American Bearing Manufacturers Association. They developed a thing called the ABEC, or ABEC, sort of rating, we'll call it. And it goes in odd numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And, people see those numbers all the time and they don't even know what they mean. And a lot of times you'll see bearings with no rating, like this bearing here, you'll buy off the shelf from a major company that doesn't actually make the bearing, but they're all over the place. And they really don't tell you whether or not they're any good. And how do you define a good bearing versus a bad bearing? Well, you have to kind of think about what is the application going for? What is the environment the bearing is going to be used in? So we're going to talk about that today. And let's start off with the stock bearing that you'll find in most RC cars. Okay, so the stock bearing is going to be essentially, it'll kind of look like this. It'll have a rubber shield. That's all that is. There's a little rubber shield on it. And when you spin it, I've got a little tool here. If you've watched another episode, you've seen me use it before, or when I talk about the tool episode. I'll spin it, right? And it moves. You notice it doesn't spin very fast, right? And that's not that big of a deal. And then I'll get this bearing and I'll spin this one. You're like, okay. Feels very smooth, by the way. These are all new bearings. Spin that one, and that thing doesn't stop. What the heck? So, what is the environment you want to use these in? That's purely how you run the car. What do you want it to do? And what do you think is the best application for what we're working for? So that's kind of what I wanted to sort of dig into, right? So again, we talked about, the odd number rating systems. It's a classification. It's 5 distinct characteristics. And so the first thing, it's basically these ISO ratings. I'm not going to get in too far in the weeds, but it's called an ISO 492 rating. ABEC 1 has an ISO rating of a class 6X. ABEC 3 has an ISO class of 6. ABEC 5 is an ISO class 5. ABEC 7 class 4. ABEC 9 ISO class 2. So on an ABEC 1 bearing with an outside diameter of less than 2 inches, the width of the outer ring can deviate. It's a very tiny number. Basically negative 0.0050 inches. Okay. However, an ABEC 7 with the same diameter and can deviate no more than negative 0.001 inches. That's pretty tight tolerances. So what does that really mean? Um, you want to sit there and think about tolerances in an RC car, and you're like, I don't really care that much. I just want to run my stupid thing. And that's a fair point. And that's why I wanted to do this video. There are so many people that'll tell you to buy certain bearings, and then the manufacturers of these bearings, and reality is not even really manufacturers, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute. There are manufacturers of bearings, but they're not who you think they are. So dimensional accuracy, it's bore diameter, outer diameter, bearing width, allowable inner ring, deviation, and shape error. So basically, is it like perfectly like round, for instance? The running accuracy is measured at axle run out, inner and outer ring run out. Okay. So those are just some of the way they look at it. I think that's important for you? Not necessarily, because you're not going to ask what the axle or the axial run out is versus, and what is the bore diameter. And so you kind of need to know those things. And if you watch my tool video, and I'll put that as a card, watch the tool video, and I tell you kind of how to like quickly measure a bearing in that tool video of basic tools you should have for everyday RC stuff, and why it's important. Okay, so ABEC ratings, it kind of just depends on, again, on the application. So typically you're going to see lower tolerance applications on stuff that might have a little bit harder life, we'll call it sometimes. So where the run out and the things of that nature really don't matter as much. So like automotive components, material handling equipment, electric pumps and motors and compressors, gearboxes will have usually an ABEC rating of 1 and 3. So just kind of think about that. The stricter tolerances are usually found in higher RPM applications, and that's where you can kind of see, I think, the logic of having a higher ABEC rating for a bearing like this might come in application, because the RPMs and RC cars are immense. It's a lot. Those things are moving. So typically you'll see, a 7 or 9 in machine tools, aerospace components, robotics, medical devices, and then devices that maintain high RPMs. You'll usually see a 7 or 9. It's something to think about. Let's talk about what you're normally buying. One of the major manufacturers that, I'm not going to name names, but it's somebody that you can buy bearings from on a regular basis. They don't actually list the ABEC rating. However, I have found through manufacturing back channels, we'll call it, that the specifications are listed as an ABEC 3. And that's considered, to me, an OEM quality. So if you buy a Traxxas car, you buy so like this here, like, you've probably seen a bearing like this before. This came out of a Team Associated car. It's new. This looks like a standard bearing. Team Associated bearings, all the major bearings you're going to see in your RC car are normally going to be ABEC 3. And they get the job done. They're totally fine. The thing that you'll run into later on is, when should you maybe change out the bearings to a different style? And that's where you see a lot of debate, like about these guys here, the ceramic hybrids. The ceramic hybrid bearing versus this bearing here, these are actually the same size bearing. I think they're like a 5x10 or a 5x11. One of the most common bearings. 5x10, 5x11 bearings are just about the most common bearings in RC cars. This one spins great. If you watch my little paint video that I did of this body here, I have these ceramic hybrids throughout the entire car. It's a drift car. So I chose those bearings for that application because I wanted it to be really smooth and very predictable. And so you'll notice I like spin the tire in the video. It just goes on forever. You can see this one here. It just spins. Look at that. Spins and spins and spins and spins and spins and just keeps spinning. I have found, though, through my own trial and errors over the years that these have been around, that ceramic hybrid bearings don't hold up very well in abusive situations. I would not recommend them if you have a basher. Okay. I actually don't recommend them in crawlers. I have had a lot of people buy bearings from me for their crawlers, and I have told them you don't want them in your crawler. Now this particular one that I buy is an ABEC 7. That's like crazy tolerances for that little tiny bearing, but it makes them very expensive. So why do I do that? It's just because the manufacturer, I buy direct from manufacturers on most all my stuff. So I like won't buy, I'll buy name brand stuff, we'll call it, that you would see in your hobby shop when permitted. But for hardware and tools and bearings, soldering equipment, like Horizon Hobby does not make bearings. Okay. Team Associated does not make bearings. You follow me? The major companies that you're buying bearings from that say that they're a bearing company, they don't actually even make the bearings. They're an importer. And I know this is because that's how I found out their ABEC ratings, is because I was buying from the same manufacturers for my own personal use. And how do you find them? It's actually fairly easy. So the wholesale trade site, Alibaba, not AliExpress, but Alibaba. You could buy things in bulk there. You could buy like anything. It's kind of crazy. And you can see the company's ratings, and there's trade assurance and those all sorts of stuff. It's a little difficult if you're just a dude, but if you have a business like we do, and we use the business application for a lot of different things, the companies take you seriously because they see you're a registered, limited liability, company or corporation. And so it opens up the doors to that communication. So, if you need to buy like $1,000 worth of bearings because you're doing a project or something, then they're going to do that. Now, is that what you want to do? Probably not, but remember I mentioned AliExpress, those same companies from Alibaba, some of them will set up stores on AliExpress, and a lot of them will be the manufacturer representing themselves directly. That's where, I feel like, sometimes some of these websites get a bad name and a bad rep. And there are some pure junk out there. And again, if you have questions on this stuff, just ping me in the chat. I'll talk about it. Again, I'm just here for you and your hobby. So again, this is a ceramic hybrid bearing. It's an ABEC 7. Sorry for the little long-winded, hey, how do I go about things? This bearing here is an ABEC 7 ceramic hybrid. Not great for heavy duty application. Very great in touring cars, drift cars. You've got, anything that doesn't see a lot of abuse, like ground abuse, essentially, right? Okay. Stock bearing. The reason why the manufacturers use this bearing right here, it's an ABEC 3 with a rubber seal. They use it because it's dirt cheap. It's using very cheap materials. Even the little cage that's inside here will be like tin, like made out of tin, like just a tin. It's an alloy, like mixed material to kind of keep the balls in place. This little seal off, so you can kind of see what I'm saying or talking about here, because I really don't care about this bearing. I just wanted to show it as a guinea pig. You see there's like an inner sort of race there, right? It's kind of hard to see in the picture, but it's the actual piece that's holding the balls in place. That material can be like really thin sometimes and not perform very well. It's that little, I'll show you this little right there. A lot of times will just be real thin, and not very structurally sound. Sometimes they can be. It kind of depends on the manufacturer, but that's usually the piece that starts to go out because dirt gets in there and it gets them all boogered up. Before I move on to when would you use a bearing like this, I'll tell you here in a second. So I wanted to show you that because this is kind of hard to clean, but you can clean them. And I use WD-40, and the reason why I use WD-40 is because it'll actually push the dirt around and keep moisture out at the same time. There are people that use all sorts of stuff to clean these. If there's a guy out there that's telling you to clean this with some special oil, then do it, But I will say this, I have seen people recommend oiling this bearing right here, the ceramic hybrid, you won't ruin the bearing, but it won't spin at a high speed anymore, because this uses a dry lubricant scenario, is what they call it. Like, it doesn't need extra lubricant. The ceramic coating itself is providing essentially the very smooth application of it rotating. Don't lubricate these. Just remember that. All right, so when would you use this bearing, and what's so special about this guy? Well, I love these bearings right here in rock crawlers, and it's got a metal shield instead of a rubber shield. And this is a full stainless bearing, stainless balls, stainless shield. It just works really well. And the reason why I use stainless, as I'm sure you can imagine, what do we do with our rock crawlers? We put them through living, like, HE double hockey sticks, right? Like, we just annihilate them on a regular basis. So something to think about. This one here is either an ABEC 5 or an ABEC 7. It's real close tolerance. It's silky smooth. It doesn't spin real fast, but it spins effortlessly. Okay. I also like cleaning these out with WD-40 because it just pushes the dirt out very rapidly. And then the nice thing about stainless, if it does get dirt in there, it's a way tougher bearing material wise. So it normally kind of just pulverizes almost anything that it kind of comes in contact with, like if dirt does get in there. That's kind of the short and dirty of bearings. I know, it's fascinating, huh? So when should you use these? Use stock bearings whenever possible, because normally that's just going to get you by, and that's all you need. Use high performance ceramic hybrid bearings. They're ceramic they're ceramic coated balls is really technically all they are, with a metal shield. I don't know where did it go? Hey, oh, there it is. So that's when you use that guy. High speed situations, touring car, drift car, maybe a drag cars. I could see that for sure. Less rolling resistance. Rock crawlers, I like using stainless bearings for that application. Stock bearings, everyday Joe stuff. They're dirt cheap, just everyday cars. So that's the three major kinds. That's really it. So now that you know what ABEC is, maybe you feel a little cooler walking in a hobby shop and be like, hey man, what ABEC rating those bearings? When that dude behind the counter or a dudette's going to look at you like, do you want bearings or not? I don't care. That's probably what they're going to say. All right. So stay cosmic, stay groovy, and subscribe and stuff, yo. See ya.